Most people have absolutely no idea how behind they actually are for retirement, and that ignorance is going to cost them everything. We are talking about the difference between retiring comfortably and working until your body gives out because you have no other choice. The average American is sleepwalking toward a financial cliff, convinced that their 401k is probably fine, without ever once sitting down to verify that. Search engine optimization data tells us that millions of people every single month are frantically typing average 401k balance by age into Google. And you know why? Because somewhere deep down, they already suspect the answer is not good. Well, today, we are not going to sugarcoat it. We are going to rip the bandage off, show you exactly where the average American stands at every single stage of their working life, and force you to confront whether you are ahead of the curve or dangerously behind it. This is not a feel-good video. This is a wake-up call. And if you have been putting off looking at your retirement numbers, consider this your final warning to pay attention. Let me be brutally honest with you right now. The majority of people watching this video are completely and utterly behind on their retirement savings, and most of them have absolutely no idea just how bad the situation really is. We are talking about millions of hardworking people who are going to reach their 60s and 70s with nowhere near enough money to stop working. Not because they did not earn enough, but because nobody ever sat them down and taught them how to actually use the tools that were sitting right in front of them the entire time. Your 401k is one of the most powerful wealth-building instruments available to the average working person in this country. And the overwhelming majority of people are either ignoring it, underfunding it, or flat out leaving thousands of dollars on the table every single year. That stops today. By the time you finish watching this video, you are going to know exactly what a 401k is, how it works, and the specific steps you need to take right now to stop bleeding money and start building the retirement you actually deserve. Let me be brutally honest with you right now, because nobody else on the internet is going to say this to your face. Most people searching for retirement savings advice are already behind, and not just a little behind. We are talking dangerously, critically, keep you up at night behind. If you typed something like, "How much should I have saved for retirement?" or "Average retirement savings by age," into your search bar today, there's a very good chance you already feel that pit in your stomach, that quiet anxiety that tells you the numbers are not where they need to be. Good. That feeling is not your enemy. That feeling is the only thing standing between you and a retirement that looks nothing like what you planned. So do not click away. Do not scroll past this. And do not convince yourself you will deal with it later, because later is exactly how people end up at 65 with nowhere near enough. Stay right here, because what we are about to show you is going to force you to confront the reality of where most Americans actually stand, and, more importantly, what you can do about it starting today. So let's start with the youngest group, people in their 20s. According to the data, the average 401k balance for this age group typically sits somewhere between $10,000 and $15,000. Now, honestly, that is not surprising. When you factor in entry-level salaries, student loan payments, and the fact that many people in their 20s are just a few years into their first real job, it makes complete sense. But here is the thing, your 20s are actually the most powerful decade for retirement savings, and not because of how much you earn. It is because of compound interest. Every single dollar you invest right now has the longest possible runway to grow. Time in the market is your greatest asset at this stage, and starting even a few years earlier can mean tens of thousands of extra dollars by retirement. If your 401k balance is sitting below six figures and you are already in your 30s or 40s, this video is going to be one of the most important things you watch all year. We are talking about the cold, hard truth behind average 401k balances by age, and why most Americans are quietly sleepwalking into a retirement disaster they never saw coming. No sugarcoating, no fluff, just the real numbers and exactly what you need to do about them before it is too late. Let me hit you with something most financial advisors are too polite to say out loud. The majority of Americans are sleepwalking straight into a retirement disaster, and the clock is not waiting for you to get comfortable with that fact. We are talking about millions of people who will reach their 60s with nowhere near enough money to stop working. Not because they did not earn enough, but because nobody ever forced them to look at the real numbers. Search engine optimization, or SEO, brings people to videos about retirement tips, budgeting hacks, and passive income dreams. But what you actually need is a brutal, unfiltered reality check about your 401k, your employer-sponsored retirement savings plan, right now, before another year slips by. This is not a video about motivation or feel-good money advice. This is about the hard math, the uncomfortable gaps, and exactly what you need to do before it is genuinely too late. Now let's talk about the decade where things get truly serious, your 50s. The average 401k balance for people in this age group sits somewhere around $160,000 to $180,000. And while that number might sound decent on the surface, let's put it into perspective. Most people in their 50s are only 10 to 15 years away from retirement. Financial experts generally recommend having around 7 to 10 times your annual salary saved by the time you retire. So if you are earning $70,000 a year, you should be targeting somewhere between $490,000 and $700,000. That means the average person in their 50s is dramatically behind where they need to be. This is the decade where the gap stops being a distant concern and becomes an urgent financial reality that demands immediate attention and serious action. Now we arrive at the decade most people are actively preparing to retire. For those in their 60s, the average 401k balance sits somewhere between $230,000 and $250,000. On the surface, that might sound like a decent chunk of money, but let us apply the 4% withdrawal rule, which is a widely accepted guideline suggesting you withdraw 4% of your total savings each year in retirement to make it last. On a $250,000 balance, that comes out to just $10,000 per year, or roughly $833 per month. Even at the higher end, you are looking at approximately $9,000 to $10,000 annually from your 401k alone. When you factor in everyday expenses like housing, healthcare, food, and transportation, that number falls dramatically short of what most people need to live comfortably throughout retirement. Now take a breath. Looking at these numbers can feel genuinely overwhelming. Maybe you recognized yourself in one of those age brackets and felt a wave of anxiety wash over you. That reaction is completely valid and honestly more common than you might think. Millions of Americans are sitting in the exact same position, quietly hoping things will somehow work out without ever confronting the reality of where they actually stand. But here is what I want you to hold on to right now. The fact that you are watching this video, engaging with this data, and allowing yourself to sit with these uncomfortable truths means you are already doing something most people never do. you are paying attention. Awareness is not just a small step. It is the most powerful and transformative step you can take toward genuinely changing your financial future. Everything starts here. Now, here is something that makes those already sobering numbers even more concerning. The figures we just walked through are averages, and averages can be misleading. When a small number of very high earners have massive balances, they pull the overall average significantly upward, making the typical person's situation look better than it actually is. That is where the median comes in. The median represents the middle point, meaning half of people have more and half have less. And when you look at median 401k balances across all age groups, the numbers drop dramatically. For people in their 50s, the median balance is often closer to $60,000, not $180,000. For people in their 60s, it can be under $100,000. So if you felt unsettled by the averages, the median tells us the typical American is in an even more precarious position heading into retirement. So why are so many Americans falling short? The reasons are more common than you might think. Student loan debt is one of the biggest culprits, with millions of people spending their prime saving years paying off education instead of investing in their future. Then there is the high cost of living, where rising rent, groceries, and healthcare leave very little room to save anything meaningful. Another surprisingly common issue is simply not knowing how employer matching works, meaning people leave thousands of dollars of free money on the table every single year. And perhaps the most overlooked reason of all is contribution stagnation, where someone enrolls at 3% during their first week on the job and never touches that number again. Life gets busy and retirement feels distant, so that initial rate just sits there untouched for years. Now that we understand why so many people fall behind, let us talk about one of the simplest and most powerful moves you can make starting today. Increase your contribution rate by just 1% per year. That is it. If you are currently contributing 6% of your salary, bump it to 7% next year, then 8% the year after. Because you are doing it gradually, you will barely notice the difference in your paycheck. But over decades, the compounding effect is extraordinary. Someone earning $60,000 annually who increases contributions by just 1% each year could accumulate tens of thousands of additional dollars by retirement. Your investments grow on top of growth year after year. Small, consistent increases do not feel like a lifestyle sacrifice, but they absolutely transform your long-term outcome. This single habit, repeated annually, might be the most underrated retirement strategy available to everyday Americans. Now, here is something that not enough people talk about, and it could genuinely be a game changer if you are 50 or older. The Internal Revenue Service allows what are called catch-up contributions, which let you contribute an additional amount on top of the standard annual 401k limit. In 2024, the standard limit is $23,000, but if you are 50 or above, you can contribute an extra $7,500, bringing your total to $30,500 per year. That is a significant opportunity that millions of eligible Americans are simply leaving on the table. If you are in your 50s, staring at a balance that feels too low, this is one of the most powerful tools available to accelerate your savings in that final stretch before retirement. Even a few years of maximizing catch-up contributions can meaningfully close the gap and strengthen your financial position heading into retirement. Now that you have seen the numbers, it is time to see where you personally stand. Retirement calculators are free, easy to use, and available on sites like Fidelity, Vanguard, and NerdWallet. Simply plug in your current balance, age, income, and contribution rate, and you will get a clear picture of whether you are on track to hit those recommended milestones. Are you at 1 times your salary by 30, 3 times by 40, 6 times by 50? These benchmarks give you a real target to aim for. And while you are at it, log into your employer benefits portal and confirm whether your company offers a full contribution match. If they do, and you are not contributing enough to capture every single dollar of that match, you are essentially leaving free money on the table every single paycheck. That needs to stop today. No matter where you are right now, the most important thing you can do is take one step forward today. Waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect salary, or the perfect plan will only cost you more time, and time is the one thing you cannot get back. Whether you are just starting out in your 20s or playing catch-up in your 50s, action today will always beat hesitation tomorrow. The gap between where you are and where you need to be is closable, but only if you start moving. If this video gave you a wake-up call, share it with a friend or family member who needs to hear it too. Sometimes the best gift you can give someone is a little financial clarity. Remember, building wealth is not a race. It is a marathon, and every single step counts.